Hi everybody, I'm back with another one of my presidential politics videos. I was off last week from doing NFL bets videos. I just thought I should take a week off. I think every now and then it's good to step away. But I will be back with another one of those this week, and as a little bonus, I'm going to do a video today on President Grover Cleveland. I mentioned in my last, one of my previous presidential election videos that Grover Cleveland is the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, which is what Donald Trump will do if he is elected in a few weeks. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to do a little look at Grover Cleveland and talk a little bit about his presidency. And most of this information is from the whitehouse.gov website, just for citation. So, Grover Cleveland was president from 1885 to 1889, and then again in 1893 to 1897. So he was our 22nd and 24th president. He was the first Democrat elected after the Civil War. So Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and after winning the Civil War, his party kind of dominated national politics for a couple decades, but Grover Cleveland broke that trend. Cleveland was one of 9 children born to a Presbyterian minister in New Jersey in 1837. He was primarily raised in upstate New York and ultimately became a lawyer in Buffalo, New York. He got into politics at the age of 44. He was initially elected mayor of Buffalo in 1881. And then it was just, 3 years later that he ultimately got elected president. So, pretty meteoric rise for Cleveland. So, Cleveland was also the only president to get married in the White House. He was a bachelor when he was elected, and in June of 1886, he married 21-year-old Frances Folsom. He was known for a policy that barred any special favors to economic groups. He vetoed a bill that would have appropriated $10,000 to distribute seed grain to drought-stricken farmers because he believed that federal aid encouraged the expectation of paternal care on the part of the government. That's a quote from him. It's kind of funny to think that back in the late 1800s, $10,000 made a big difference because so many of the spending bills we see now are in the hundreds of billions and even trillions. He was known for cracking down on private pension bills to Civil War veterans if their claims were fraudulent. railroad industry, ordering an investigation of the western lands that they held by government grant, and forced them to return 81 million acres of land. In 1887, he called on Congress to reduce high protective tariffs. And despite winning a larger popular vote than the Republican Benjamin Harrison in the 1888 election, he was defeated in the Electoral College. But in the 1892 election, he won again, serving his second term after not being president for 4 years. So, again, what President Trump is trying to do in a few weeks. And in 1892, he faced, the country was facing a depression. So up until the crash of the market in 1929, it was the worst depression the country had faced. And Cleveland dealt with the Treasury Crisis and focused on that element of things rather than dealing with business failures or farm mortgage foreclosures or unemployment. So hoping that I guess boosting the value of the U.S. currency would sort of help in other areas to ease the depression. Once again, he took on the railroad industry, going after the strikers in Chicago. And he actually called in federal troops to take on the strikers when they violated an injunction. And he famously said, if it takes an entire army and navy of the United States to deliver a postcard in Chicago, then that card will be delivered. So, it's obviously a somewhat controversial policy, as were many of his policies during the Depression of the 1890s. And in the 1896 election, his party deserted him and nominated William Jennings Bryan in 1896, and I believe William Jennings Bryan ultimately lost to William McKinley. So and Cleveland moved back to New Jersey after leaving the White House, and he died in 1908. So that's just a little overview of who Grover Cleveland was, our 22nd and 24th president. We will see how this election turns out. I am at this point predicting that Donald Trump will win. It just seems like that's the way the polls are trending. Joe Biden was up by way more in the key swing states at this time in 2020 and ended up only winning by a pretty thin margin. So it just doesn't seem promising for Vice President Harris unless she can gain some major ground in the next few weeks. But I still would not be shocked if it goes the other way. I think it really is a coin flip. You don't know. A lot of people, I think, might behave differently in the privacy of a voting booth than they would if they're talking on the phone to a pollster. So perhaps there will be a surprise. Or, it wouldn't even be be too much of a surprise because it is kind of a toss-up as it stands now. But I would not be shocked if it goes the other way. But I think there's a decent chance Donald Trump will become the 47th president after having been the 45th president. So we may have a new member of the Grover Cleveland Club. But we will see what happens. It should be interesting regardless. We're living through history here, and I encourage everyone, regardless of where you stand politically, to participate in the process and get out and vote. So thank you everybody for listening. I will be back soon with more football content. And thanks as always to my new subscribers and everyone who's tuned into my channel. Have a great rest of your week.